Okay, so we're going to move on to a second type of problem for inverses, and these are our rational functions. So everything starts the same. Here I have g of x. I need to make that y so I can switch x and y. What makes these a little bit different is that when I switch x and y, I end up with two y's, which is going to cause a little bit of a problem down the line. Now, since I just have one fraction equal to another fraction, I can cross multiply here. So I'm going to multiply the x times the y minus 2 and the 1 times the y. I'm going to circle those just to show that. So 1 times y is y. Here I'll end up having to distribute. So I get xy minus 2x. Now what's tricky is that now we have two terms that have y. So the first thing we need to do is get those together. And if I had anything else that didn't have a y, I'd put it on the other side. Here I just have the negative 2x. So here I have y minus xy equals negative 2x. The reason I brought those y's together is because now y is the GCF. I can factor it out. So if I take a y out of a y, I just have a 1 left. And I take a y out of an xy, I have a negative x left there. Once I get the y factored out, I can divide by that binomial. So I divide by 1 minus x on both sides. It cancels it. So originally in this one, we now have y by itself. I have g of x. So this function is going to be called g inverse of x. And that equals negative 2x over 1 minus x. Now, kind of similar to some of our rational expression problems from last unit, depending on how you move the terms, you could have the negative sign in the denominator, which would give you 2x over x minus 1. So that's just having the negative on the other side. Either of those answers is correct. On answer keys, you're going to see both of them. I'm just going to leave both of those up here. So here we have another one where we're going to switch x and y, create a y from the h of x, switch x and y for the inverse. Then we're going to cross multiply. Here I do not need to distribute because these are both monomials. So x times 2y is 2xy. Then we're going to get our y terms together. I'm going to subtract this y over. A little common mistake is just to cross out the y's there. 2xy and y are not like terms, so they do not combine. Next step, once I have my two y terms together, is to factor it out. And then divide by the binomial. Looking back at my notation, this is h of x, so this new function is called h inverse of x. If I had this switched, so I had my negative in the numerator instead, I would have negative 3 over negative 2x plus 1, which I'm going to write as 1 minus 2x. Either way would be fine. So the next two, there's a little bit more because there's an extra term, but why don't you try those and then come back and watch the video. I'll go through those pretty quickly. So hopefully you've tried these. First thing to do here is switch x and y. And then we are going to cross multiply. So here I would get xy minus 2x if I were multiplying these two equals y plus 4. Now, as I said on this one, we have two y terms and two non-y terms. So I'm going to move the y over this way, and I need to move the 2x over to the other side. So I get xy minus y equals 2x plus 4. We're going to factor out the y over here. And then divide by x minus 1 on both sides. So this one just has a y. So we do not need to use any function notation. If I had solved it the other way, I would have had negative 2x minus 4 over negative x plus 1 or 1 minus x. So the last one is very similar to that. Switch x and y. Cross multiply. And I'm gonna move the 2 this way. In general, just a preference, I like to keep as much positive as possible. So that's kind of how I usually determine, and that's not gonna work. So I moved the 2 in that direction, so I need to move the x, y this way. So that's 4x plus 2 equals 3y minus xy. Factor out my y. And divide by 3 minus x. So looking back, I have f of x, so this function is going to be called f inverse of x, and that is 4x plus 2 over 3 minus x. And if I'd written it the other way, I'm just going to write that up here, it would be negative 4x minus 2 over x minus 3.